what are your thoughts on A, teenage antidepressant use, and B, the standard practice of schools' security to search student belongings? Boy, when I read that the first time, I only saw the first half. Teenage antidepressant use. I think with almost all of these mood-affecting drugs, there are some cases in which they are the right move, and almost all of the cases in which they are used, they should be a last resort rather than a first resort, which is too often how they're being used. And I think the idea of putting such drugs into a developing human's brain when all is chaos, when there's a lot of restructuring going on and reframing of neuronal connections, there are potentially going to be long-term consequences that we have no idea of at this point.
Yeah, it's effectively inevitable because the mind is learning how to think and to feel and to balance things. And to the extent that you are interfering with the processing, you are creating potentially a lifelong dependence. It is also the case that these things have been massively affected by what is being called the replication crisis. And there is a huge bias in favor of seeing effectiveness of these things that may not be what we think it is or may be ephemeral. So to the extent that almost any change of scene can take a person who is mired in depression and cause them to drop out of it because things are somehow different and feel different and all of that, but it's not a long-term solution, we may have a very wrong idea, even where they work, about why they work and what's taking place. And so, yeah, it's very, very scary that we would have leapt to this and largely sidelined other modes in which a mind that is not settled and doesn't feel right could learn those skills and have them for the rest of the person's life.
Yeah. And in some cases, your mind isn't settled and things don't feel right because something is wrong in your world. And dampening that ability to respond to that is actually more dangerous than feeling the upset in the first place.
Yeah, that's all true. I would say the caveat here and the problem that it is, the reason it is so hard to have this discussion is that obviously people harm themselves. And it will not be the case, even if all it is a change of scene, even if it just causes the mind to feel different. It will certainly be saving some lives. That's not to say that in the end it doesn't result in more people harming themselves.
Yeah.
But one does not want to take up a position and say these things are bad when there are likely to be people walking around who wouldn't otherwise be because it got in the road of some cascading mental phenomenon at some point where the person needed it to get in the road. But God damn it, we can do better.
Yeah.
This is not we don't know nearly enough about the brain to interfere with it that way. And the model on which these things were predicated is known to be false, right? This idea of chemical imbalances, that's possible that they exist in some cases. It is very unlikely to be involved in the majority of cases, which doesn't mean that you can't,
No, and if we really are experiencing an epidemic of chemical imbalances in the brain, it wasn't true 500 years ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't true 2,000 years ago. It wasn't even true 200 years ago. Therefore, this is something that we are doing to ourselves. And rather than treating the symptom of something that is resulting from something we are doing to ourselves, we should figure out what it is in the modern environment that is causing this.
Absolutely.
And the second part of this, which is what are your thoughts on the standard practice of school security to search student belongings? This is a more complicated question.
Yeah.
And I actually don't know it to be the case. It's not the case. Well, one of our children has never even been to the school that he attends since he started this year, and it's been all virtual. But I don't know it to be the case at his school, and it's not the case at the other guy's school. So there are certainly situations in which it is unfortunately probably called for, and that's a tough question.
Yep.